Hey everyone, I am so sorry this video is coming out a day late. I was photographing a wedding this weekend, which is why I was scheduling the video to come out on Sunday, but then on top of that, I genuinely thought I lost the SD cards and all of the video files for the recordings up until now for this week's progress, which, well, scared me ever so slightly, and I thought I'd have to come up with something really quick, but don't worry, I found them. I found them. So we're uploading a day late, but that's okay. Let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Building Hogwarts in LEGO. It is now week 26. I can't believe we're up there. That's a lot of episodes of Building Hogwarts. But as you can see, we were working on this last week, and I've not touched any of the mocks since because we recorded that video so late into the week. But I am still pointing this direction because I would like to continue on from last week and the week before that with doing some more interiors. It's just kind of a fun thing that I'm in the mood to do. So we're going to focus on the divination classroom this week. So as I've explained in previous videos, we are going to be taking essentially this section of this building and turning it into the divination classroom. Now, of course, that is supposed to go in a round building, but apart from the grand staircase tower, we don't really have any. And that's kind of been the case for Dumbledore's office, for the Gryffindor common room, so it's a theme at this point. We're just going to work with it. So we're going to rip off the roof, dive into this space, figure out what it is we can do, because frankly, I've not seen this part of the building in quite a while. But before we dive into any of the progress, I have some really exciting news to share with you guys. A few months ago, I submitted both myself and Hogwarts to a LEGO convention, and I just heard back, and we have been successfully admitted. That is right, Hogwarts is going to be displayed at a LEGO convention. I am so excited. Now, some just basic information for any of you who are interested. I currently live in Scotland, so I'm going to be displaying this at a LEGO convention called Edinbrick, which is located in Edinburgh. I will leave all of the appropriate links down in the description below. But if any of you happen to live in the UK, or Scotland in particular, and you'd love to see Hogwarts in person, well, here's your opportunity. I'm going to be displaying it there. I believe the event is on the 10th and the 11th of May, so in about 2 months' time. So there we go. I hope some of you guys will be able to attend, and it's going to be a really fun experience. So the good thing is having a LEGO convention to work towards basically gives us a defined goal, a defined endpoint that Hogwarts has to be completed by. So I've got 2 months, probably about 8 weeks of actual progress, maybe a little bit less because I have to think about how I'm going to actually transport this. And it's a good thing that several weeks ago, and of course I did have this in mind when I was doing it, I was thinking about how I could divide the mock into some more sizable chunks for transport. But now that I know that this is actually going to be a reality, we're going to have to kind of steamroll through this and make sure it is ready for a convention. So hey, leave a comment down below if this is something you might actually be able to attend, or at the very least if you live in the UK and you just kind of want to share the love here. I'd like to know where everyone who's watching my videos is from. That's a really cool thing for me to know. In any case, let's jump right back into the video. So, as has become the norm, we're first going to start by looking at some reference material. Here is the divination classroom, as the Hogwarts Legacy game shows it. Now, it's quite similar to what we see in the movie. It's in a round tower. We've got all these sort of little tables and cushioned seats darted across the room. But the most important thing is, of course, that all the students are on this sort of wooden decking, the sort of platform that runs around the center of the room, where Professor Trelawney, or whatever the equivalent from this period of time would be, standing in the middle of the room. Now, of course, once again, we are dealing with a different shape. Just putting the book down. This is the amount of height that we have got to work with. About 5 bricks, but it's actually even less than that because obviously I've spoken about the window, but I'm going to try and show it on camera. As you can see, that top of the roof line only gives us about 4 bricks of clearance above this window, which is not a lot. Okay, so I've just dismembered it ever so slightly just to give you a little bit of a better idea. I'm going to zoom in here and hopefully you guys can understand what I'm talking about. I'm trying to reach my hand in. Actually, it's even less than 4 bricks. You guys can see where the base of the window is and where it lines up in terms of the window. They're pretty much level. That means we only have actually 3 bricks of wall space. Now, the good thing is we have the entire roof, which is currently over here. And in there, we get, you know, a little bit extra space. But you gotta think that in the way that we're using this space, it's what we're gonna see once we lift off the roof. So it doesn't really matter if the minifigures can stand up or whatever, because they certainly can up in here. But it's more when we take off the roof, we've only got 3 bricks on the walls to actually work with. So in terms of raising seating and stuff, that's going to be quite difficult to achieve. So we might have to rework things slightly differently to see what we come up with here. Oh, and also I just realized that it has been very, very long since anyone has seen the inside of this building. We're looking at this front section of the building over here of the central tower. This is the Transfiguration classroom. For any of you who have not seen it before, I will leave a card up above for the video where we actually worked on this. I want to say it's probably like week 3. So up here at the front we have sort of like a raised platform where we have McGonagall's desk, you know, a map, a chalkboard, whatever you want to call that. We did something interesting in here in terms of we did quite a lot of work on the walls. You can't quite see it there, but there's some arches, there's some pilasters, wedged corners, and same thing going over here on this side. You're going to be upside down for this one, but that's what these walls look like as well. The only problem is this room looks pretty horrible because you're looking at it from so far above. So there is something about this that I want to figure out a better way to get into this. Do I want to actually figure out a way to rip off this front facade? That seems a bit much, but I'm willing to experiment. Maybe we think about, no, it wouldn't work from this side. I'm literally just trying to figure things out as I have the video recording, so not the smartest move, but hey, I want to get you guys involved in some of my thinking. Obviously this is a room that, besides looking in from this window and not seeing much, you can't really get access to. Anyhow, so one thing that makes me wonder is it worth actually figuring out a way to lower this window ever so slightly in order to get more room for the divination classroom up here, but just also maybe frame the transfiguration classroom a little bit bigger so that when I do take off the roof of not only divination, but you know, the floor that it would be sitting on, you're a little bit closer to the action. It seems like a lot of work either way, but you know, like I said, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. So we're gonna start off by figuring out a way to get a better view into the transfiguration classroom, and it might just be from above because that's what happens to be the easiest way to look at it from, or I might get a little bit more drastic and start ripping things apart before, of course, we move on to the divination classroom. Okay, so time jump. It's Monday night, back to when I was recording that first clip that you saw at the beginning of the video. Anyhow, I've taken apart most of this building over here, and I've had an interesting idea, I think. So, so by ripping up most of the walls, I decided to think about how I can use the space a little bit more wisely. So obviously, we have the Transfiguration classroom down here, which is pretty cool on its own, but frankly, it doesn't need that much height to it. In fact, that kind of takes away from it. I was looking at these sort of wedges that stick out here in the corners and thinking about a way that I could perhaps use them, almost like a shelf. And I put this plate down in here just to sort of represent it, and that actually very conveniently lines up with the bottom of the window here. And my idea is perhaps I can have a room that's sort of just like an insert that I can put right here, and as long as I have a way to grab it, it can sit on these ledges just on tiles, and I can pull it up so that it will reveal the Transfiguration classroom underneath, but then actually I get to have an entire other room in this space right here. And then what would I do? Well, I've got my whiteboard from a few weeks ago under the table here, and one of the things you can see right under the pen is charms, right above divination. And I thought, well, I've always wanted to put charms somewhere, and I said I couldn't find a place for it and that it wasn't overly important, but now that I do have the space for it, can I put an insert of a classroom right here? So essentially you have Transfiguration at the bottom, then you lift it up and you can see Transfiguration, then it'll be charms, and then right above it on the upper floor would be divination. I think that logic works, so I'm going to try it out. We're going to first build a charms classroom and try to see how we can insert it in and make sure that the walls are of the correct height. Then we're going to work on the floor above that. We'll see how far we get. So the prototype floor is in place. The only problem is, for some weird reason, it is extremely tight. So I mean, it does come out, but it's not It's not smooth by any means. I think over time these walls have sort of pushed in on each other. But nevertheless, this is basically how it would work. An exact fit in here, and then as long as there's something that I can grab onto and pull it out of, that window is going to be a problem in the future. Anyhow, this basically would just slide in here, and we've got a floor level for the Charms classroom. And you can see the sort of walls that we're working with. So we have this one really cool feature wall. The only problem is the roof, or this sort of side roof, sits right above it, so you can't even really see it. And obviously that proves a problem with when you're trying to lift this out. This is now becoming in the way. But then I started thinking, because of the way I conveniently built this as sort of half snot, and that this is laying on tiles, well, this is also laying on tiles. So instead of making this bit of the roof connect into the main walls, what if this bit of the roof connects in with the Charms classroom? And so if you bear with me, I can essentially envision it as sort of pulling these two elements together, and then they both come out, and then that's what's left behind. Obviously that means that I have to now connect in this wall to this plate somehow, but I think that's not something overly difficult, and I think we can definitely achieve that. It just means that structurally it won't be hooked into the walls at all. It'll just all be laying on tiles. So we'll have to see as we get further and further up if this is going to become a little bit too fragile to actually make much sense. So we're just gonna have to build it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then well, let's hope we don't get to that. All right, so apart from the broken piece right here at the front, which hopefully no one will ever see, it's looking pretty good. So essentially what I went ahead and did was trying to find a way to build in the roof straight into the well, the classroom itself. And what I've gone ahead and done is started by using this piece right here, which is a door frame with a a printed glass panel from one of these book sets right here. So it used to go right there in the middle, and I think it's just a really cool way of framing it. Essentially, it just gives a sort of a bookend to this scene. I tried to do some sort of wood paneling on either side, and doing something interesting here with the walls, just sloping it up, just integrating it as much as I can into this roof form. That's what it looks like from the back, but frankly no one will ever see that bit. And then as far as what I'm trying to do here, basically trying to make 2 rows of benches, going to widen these a little bit, and put, like I said, 2 rows of benches with students behind them, and then sort of a walkway down the middle, and we'll have sort of a stack of books for Flitwick to stand up right here at the front. As far as how that looks like in the space so far, I don't want to get it stuck, so I'm not going to push it too far in, but this is sort of how it's looking like at the moment. So this is sort of the angle. If I get the window really quickly, put that in place. So obviously these sort of platforms do come up in front of the window, but I'm okay with that because I think it adds to the room on the inside. And then everything looks pretty normal from this side. All I did was essentially just pull in the bricks that used to extend all the way out here, so that they're flush with the interior wall, and then I'll completely build this out and make sure to put tiles underneath all of this. So far so good. We're gonna continue building out this interior. So quick update from the floor over here. We've just done a little bit more progress on these sort of platforms, as we've come to call them. I've had these little steps over here on each side leading up to it, and I've sort of created this bench, if you will. It's a pretty simple form. It's mostly based off of a piece that I already found as that would have come from one of the sets at some point. Pretty simple design, mirrored on both sides with a railing that's sort of capping it off at the end, and I think that's what really sort of grounds this. We're just going to have sort of a dark stone tile running down the middle. Obviously, Flitwick with his books down there at the end as well. Now I did do a few different trial and errors of how this might look like. Originally the entire bench was going to have just steps leading up to it, but it then became a little bit too narrow and it didn't really make sense to step right up to the bench. So steps are on either side, and there will be a seat here and a seat there. And I'm going to try to figure out a way in which I can incorporate some of these bookshelves, or well, these are just plates stacked on each other, but at some point, if it will focus, these will become sort of just books that line the wall, somewhat like that. Now, I did have these in an older version of one of my Charms classrooms, but I'm not really sure if I can find a spot for it here. So we'll continue exploring with this and see where it gets us. So just another quick update, we've gotten a little bit more progress done, done the other bench on this other side over here, and the room is starting to take a little bit more shape. I've got this bookcase, wow, that came out wrong, this bookcase, which I basically just chopped off from the bigger form down here. It kind of fits by using a headlight brick and a plate sticking out, if this will focus at all. Doesn't seem like it wants to. We're going to have to continue and hope that it does. There we go. That's the bookcase back there, just held on by a headlight brick and then a 1x1 plate, and then there you are. So it's kind of just floating right now because there are no tiles underneath as of yet, but there will be. And that jumper plate is basically just to, well, pretending to be the top of the bookcase, and then I'll hopefully put something on top of that to distract you from the fact that the books are just completely exposed and floating on the floor. We're going to tile up the rest of this bit over here and start seeing how that looks. My only worry is all of this will kind of all blend together and just look like a big brown mass. But hopefully I can kind of break that up with whatever I put on top. You know, some feathers, some quills, some people, some books, etc. And in the process of doing this, I have broken so many brown pieces, reddish brown pieces. That's just one of them. Please go down to the comments and let me know, is there something wrong with reddish brown pieces this year? And now I know that generally speaking that they have been quite a brittle color and they're more prone to breaking, but I just feel like this year all of a sudden it's like they've reached their expiry dates and everything's just breaking on me. So that's that. So I've actually resorted to using black tiles for the first time ever in my sort of mock building experience. Not one to really use it because I don't like it, but I was out of brown and I had some dark brown, but not enough, and only 1x4, so I decided that the black would do, and it actually looks pretty good. It looks, well, like some very dark hardwood flooring, and it definitely adds a little bit of depth to what would otherwise be a completely just mush of brown in this scene here. And obviously we've tiled off the main floor in some dark gray, and we have Flitwick here at the end on his stack of books, charming as ever. We got our treasure chest here at the front, and we have the stack of books with a mug sitting on top. Last step right here is to sort of just populate this, put a few things maybe here on the banister, and we're going to just do a little bit of tidying up with figuring out how this is going to slide back into the space up here, because obviously that is the most important bit of this whole design. So I've gone ahead and rebuilt the wall ever so slightly, just enough to get back up to the top of this window here, just held in by these 1x2 bricks. And you guys can see that over on this side, in this corner and such, we have tiled off the edges as the roof steps up all the way here, and the same thing on the inside of this wall as well. And now it is essentially the moment of truth to lift up this piece right here, this insert that is our charms classroom. Here's just kind of a last look at what it looks like independently. Oh, I forgot the tile in there. Oh well, no one will ever see that. And it kind of just slots in here. Now the only problem is that because of the grooves on Lego bricks, it is a little bit difficult to get in there, but once it is all completely flush on the side, on this side, and also on the back. Hopefully you guys saw that, because I couldn't. And then this is now what it looks like in the space. Does not look at all like it's not connected to the walls. And in fact, the big idea is looking through this window, this window, is it actually looks like a complete classroom. And frankly, I think it's a really good use of the space. I was a little bit concerned that having something up against the window would make it, well, just look a little bit unrealistic. But I think it works because you don't even think for a second that there's a room underneath this bit, but of course there is. And how do you get to it? Well, you lift this and you kind of wiggle it back and forth to get it loose, and then it comes out. Thankfully everything's in one piece, and you have the Transfiguration classroom underneath. So I think the idea to put the Charms classroom in this little space in between levels has actually helped us out a lot, because I mean, just taking a step back, I mean obviously we're missing now half of this building, but We can now easily get to the Transfiguration classroom, and we also now have an entire new level of something that would otherwise just be a very cavernous space. Now, what that does mean is, of course, the Transfiguration classroom looks exactly the same as it did before, because when you see it, you have to lift out the Charms classroom. But the idea is, I feel like I'm filling the space more usefully. And now, of course, we have reached back up to this sort of level as soon as the window starts, and we have the challenge of making the Divination classroom again. One of the main things we'll have to consider, of course, is when we put the Divination classroom on top of this, of course, that will have to be removable as well in order to get down into the Charms classroom, to then get down into the Transfiguration classroom. So it's all sort of stacking, but because the roof here on the side, is basically exposed bricks, it means that some sort of wall will have to be built on this. So it's almost like the wall of the Divination classroom will have to come off with the classroom in the same way that this bit of the roof did with the Charms classroom. So it's going to be an interesting challenge. I mean, I kind of dug myself a little bit of a hole with how I designed this, but I do like how it works because everything feels a lot more integrated this way. And the whole intention of how I'm designing these interiors is that if I want to see them, I can get to all of them. And that's the most important thing for me. Is, it might be a little bit difficult, such as this. Some of them you might not even be able to see really without completely taking apart buildings, and you might only get angles like this. But I like to know that the entire castle is crammed with interiors, because why not? So I'm going to leave you with this mess, and this mess, and the rest of this building to complete for next week. We're going to finish off this bit and complete the Divination classroom. I think this video was kind of fun. I mean, it's been delayed, yes, but I basically built an entire floor, an entire classroom that I wasn't thinking I would be able to fit into the mock at all, which was a pleasant surprise. So now we basically bonus interior and a bonus week of actually building Hogwarts. But anyhow, let's wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like down below and maybe give this channel a sub. I did mention the LEGO convention earlier in the video. That is something that I would love to see some fans' faces at. So do let me know down in the comments below if that is something anyone is able to attend, because that would be super, super cool. But thank you guys for making it to the end of the video, and I will see you all in week 27.